In our most recent sanctions package, so our 18th sanctions package, the EU widened the transaction ban to financial operators in third countries that circumvent or facilitate the circumvention of sanctions or support Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, including by financing trade to Russia of dual-use goods found on the battlefield in Ukraine. In this context, 2 Chinese financial operators were subjected to sanctions because they were found to have facilitated financial transactions that support Russia's war effort. This ban entered into force on August 9th. What this means in practice is that EU operators are prohibited from making transactions with these entities. Since then, China has announced its intention to impose countermeasures against 2 Lithuanian financial entities. From the European perspective, we see no evidence or justification for such countermeasures. We're going to look at them in detail, as we always will, but our initial analysis is that this has no justification whatsoever. But the important thing to keep in mind here is that even before these countermeasures were announced by China, we had been engaging in a very constructive way with China on the issue of the sanctioned Chinese banks. So we have done that on the basis that we're fully open to identifying a mutually acceptable solution that could ultimately lead to the delisting of these Chinese banks. But in order for that to happen, of course, the circumvention that is happening through those banks needs to be addressed. So we continue to talk to China. We're open to finding a negotiated outcome, but it must respect the problems we have identified.
Thanks, Olof. You have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the aspect you said, have the Chinese made it very clear to you that basically if the EU delists their banks, they will they won't put sanctions on the Lithuanian ones? And then on the aspect of contacts with the Lithuanian government or support to them, anything you can say on that?
Thanks for your follow-up. So look, we're not going to comment on the discussions we're having with our Chinese counterparts. As I've said, they have been very constructive so far, and we're committed to finding a mutually agreeable solution that would enable us to delist the banks. And of course, our expectation would be that, in turn, their countermeasures would be removed in that case. But just to emphasise, again, we don't believe that those countermeasures have any justification or evidence base, and therefore we call on China to remove them even now. And in response to your question about whether we're in touch with Lithuania, yes, of course. It's essential that we are in touch with our member states when they're affected by measures of this kind, but we're in touch with all our member states as regards sanctions at all times, including in putting together the next package. So, I mean, this is ongoing work. Our sanctions are the centerpiece of our efforts to minimise the effectiveness of the Russian war machine, and we remain fully focused on that work.